They tell you not to stray from the path. They warn you about the silence in Aokigahara, a silence that listens. I should have listened. I saw something just beyond the trees, and I had to record it. But now, I think it saw me too, and the silence, it followed me home. It started with a question that haunted me. Why do some places hold on to sorrow? As the creator of Horror Across Borders, I've explored unsettling destinations all over the world, but Aokigahara, Japan's infamous suicide forest, was the Mount Everest of them all. I'd read it all. I'd seen every shaky cam video. I knew about the Yūrei, the vengeful ghosts of Japanese folklore said to stalk the woods, preying on the lost and the sad. Since the 1960s, the forest's modern tragedy has reinforced its supernatural reputation. Locals believe the Yūrei of those who died there still wander the trees, their sorrow soaking into the volcanic soil. I thought I had it all figured out, though. I knew the dense canopy of trees and the porous volcanic rock from Mount Fuji's ancient eruptions absorbed sound, creating a profound, unnatural quiet. I'd read that the iron-rich soil could supposedly mess with compasses, making it terrifyingly easy to get lost. But knowledge feels like a shield, doesn't it? It makes you feel detached, clinical, safe. I was a skeptic, armed with facts and a new 4K camera. I wasn't going there for the wrong reasons. I was going as a documentarian, an observer. I wanted to capture the haunting beauty, that oppressive atmosphere everyone talks about. I never, ever imagined that the forest's pull was a literal thing. My friend, Kenji, begged me not to go alone. He's Japanese, raised in a town not far from Fuji's shadow. For him, Aokigahara wasn't a thrill. It was a place of profound sadness and genuine spiritual danger. Lots of locals won't go near it, convinced it's cursed. It's not just stories, he'd insisted over the phone, his voice tight. The air there, it's heavy, it changes you, just don't go off the path. Please. I promised I'd be careful. I promised I'd stick to the marked trails leading to the tourist-friendly ice and wind caves. It's a promise I broke only hours later. The drive was stunning, with Mount Fuji looming like a majestic, indifferent giant. But the mood shifted the closer I got. At the entrance, the official signs are a gut punch. Your life is a precious gift from your parents, one read. Please think of your family. A somber, stark reminder of why this place is famous. The second I stepped past those signs and onto the trail, the world changed. The road noise just vanished. It wasn't just quiet, it was a solid thing. The silence was a physical pressure, a weight in my ears, like the whole forest was holding its breath, listening to my every footstep on the dark, volcanic soil. It was exactly what I'd read about, and the thrill seeker in me was buzzing. The rational part of me felt the first, cold prickle of genuine dread. I walked for maybe an hour, my camera rolling, capturing the gnarled, twisted roots that snaked over the forest floor like bony fingers. The trees grew so thick, their branches locking together overhead, that the sky was just a rumor. It was a world of perpetual twilight, disorienting and gloomy. Sure enough, my phone's GPS was glitching, the little blue dot jumping all over the screen. Even my trusty old analog compass seemed lazy, the needle refusing to settle on north. It's just the magnetic rock, I told myself. The rational explanation. The main trail was clearly marked, almost disappointingly so. There were even a few other tourists near the entrance to one of the caves. But I came for the real experience. I wanted that isolation. So I walked further, deeper, until the voices faded and I was completely alone with the crushing silence. and that's when I saw it. It was about 50 yards off the path, a flicker of color that just didn't belong, a splash of bright red in a world of muted green and gray. My heart slammed against my ribs. I knew people used ribbons and tape to mark their way back, desperate lifelines to the outside world. This was different. It wasn't tape. It looked like a piece of clothing snagged on a branch. I stopped recording, my breath catching in my throat. Kenji's warning screamed in my head, "Don't go off the path." The signs at the entrance flashed in my memory, but the documentarian in me, the part that had to see, took over. This was the story. This was a symbol of the forest's tragedy. "Just a quick shot," I whispered, and my own voice was a shock, loud and intrusive in the stillness. I stepped over the low rope fence bordering the trail. The ground immediately felt different, treacherous, uneven, a mess of tangled roots and sharp volcanic rock hidden under the moss. I kept my eyes locked on the red object, moving slowly. The air got colder, a real drop in temperature that had nothing to do with the shade. As I got closer, I realized it wasn't a coat. It was a small, child-sized kimono. The red fabric faded and torn. It was tied deliberately to the branch. Below it, on a flat stone, sat a small, worn-out teddy bear. My blood went cold. It was a memorial, a heartbreakingly personal one, left in the middle of this vast, empty woods. I raised my camera, the soft whir of the lens sounding like a gunshot. I framed the shot, the red kimono, the sad little bear. And as I peered through the viewfinder, something moved in the A background. It was just beyond the memorial, at the edge of the trees, a pale, indistinct shape. Just a flicker. I lowered the camera, squinting into the gloom. Nothing. Just endless, oppressive trees. I wrote it off as a trick of the light. My mind playing games in a place like this. Perfectly normal. I took the shot. A wave of sadness, so powerful it was almost nauseating, washed over me. It felt like the forest's own grief was contagious. I had an overwhelming urge to get back on the path, to get out. But I also felt something else, something I couldn't ignore. The distinct, prickling sensation of being watched. I scrambled back to the trail, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against the silence. I didn't dare look back. I just walked, much faster now, all my earlier confidence gone. The forest didn't feel beautiful anymore. It felt malevolent. Every twisted tree looked like a contorted figure in the gloom. Every shadow seemed to stretch and deepen as I passed. The feeling of being watched didn't leave. It got stronger. It was like a physical presence just over my right shoulder, always at the edge of my vision. I'd whip my head around, camera up, but I'd be met with absolute stillness. The usual sounds of a forest, a rustling in the undergrowth, a bird call, were just gone, swallowed by the silence. Just the quiet, watching trees. Then, the whispers started. At first I thought it was the wind, but the leaves weren't moving. It was a faint, hissing sound, like people murmuring just out of earshot. I couldn't make out any words, just the rhythm of speech. I froze, holding my breath, straining to hear. The whispering stopped. The moment I started walking again, it resumed, a constant, unintelligible murmur that seemed to be following me. My rational brain was kicking into overdrive. Auditory pareidolia, low-frequency sounds. My own mind caving to the legends. But it felt so real. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my camera to check the footage. I scrolled back to the clip of the red kimono, and there it was. In the background, just as I'd seen through the lens, was the flicker. I paused the frame, zooming in. The image was grainy in the low light, but it was there. A tall, thin, pale shape standing between two trees. It had no real features, just a humanoid silhouette that was unnaturally long. A wave of pure, cold terror washed over me. That wasn't a trick of the light. I had recorded something. I started to run. I didn't care about the path anymore. I just ran in the direction I prayed was out. The whispering got louder, closer, seeming to come from everywhere at once. It sounded like dozens of voices now, all murmuring together. I tripped over a root, and the camera flew from my grasp, hitting a rock with a sickening crack. I didn't stop for it. My $1,000 camera, my whole reason for being here, was worthless to me now. All that mattered was getting out. The forest itself felt like it was fighting me, the landscape turning into a maze. Every direction looked identical. The trees seemed to shift, to close in around me. The path I was just on now, completely gone. I remembered reading that people felt this way, that the forest actively tries to trap you. Panic was dissolving into a chilling despair. I was lost, utterly lost. I remember seeing more tapes tied to trees, left by other lost souls. Some were bright and new. Others were faded and rotting, being slowly eaten by moss. One blue ribbon led me about 20 feet before it just stopped. The end was cleanly cut. Legends say the Yūrei do that to confuse their victims. Hours passed. The dim light faded into a deep, moonless dark. I was exhausted, dehydrated, and terrified out of my mind. I finally collapsed at the base of a huge tree, convinced this was it. The whispering had stopped. Now there was only the silence again. But it was different now. It wasn't empty. It was waiting. And that's when I heard the footsteps. Soft, bare feet on moss. And they were getting closer. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to press myself into the rough bark of the tree, trying to become invisible. I did not want to see what was making that sound. The footsteps stopped right in front of me. I could feel its presence. The cold intensified, seeping into my bones. The air grew thick with a smell I can only describe as damp earth and rot. Slowly, fighting every instinct, I opened my eyes. It was standing there, not 10 feet away. The same tall, pale figure from my camera. It was impossibly thin, its limbs too long, its joints bent at wrong angles. It wore something like a tattered, pale kimono stained with dirt. But its face, there was no face. Just a smooth, blank expanse of skin where eyes and a mouth should have been. And yet, I knew with a certainty that froze the marrow in my bones that it was looking right at me. It saw me. I couldn't scream. The air was gone from my lungs. My body was locked down by a fear so absolute it was a physical weight. The faceless head tilted in a slow, grotesque movement, and a sound came from it. Not from a mouth, but from the thing itself. A low, guttural whisper that wasn't in the air, but inside my own head. "You belong here." The words weren't in any language I knew, but I understood them perfectly. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement of fact. A sentence. That one thought, that violation, broke the paralysis. Primal survival kicked in. I scrambled to my feet and just ran. I ran blindly, branches whipping my face, rocks tearing at my clothes. I didn't look back, but I could feel it behind me. Not running, just there, effortlessly keeping pace. The silence was gone, replaced by a high-pitched ringing in my ears and the thunder of my own pulse. I have no idea how long I ran. Time had melted away. Then, through the trees, I saw a light. A man-made light. Headlights on a distant road. Hope gave me one last shot of adrenaline. I crashed through the final line of trees and stumbled onto asphalt, collapsing onto a service road, just gasping and sobbing. The forest was behind me. I was out. A car screeched to a halt. The driver was a local man who, seeing the state I was in, thankfully knew not to ask too many questions. He got me back to town. He didn't press for details. I saw in his eyes he'd seen people come out of that forest before, looking like I did. But leaving the forest, that wasn't the end. That's the thing about the subjects we cover on Horror Across Borders. The horror doesn't always stay where it's supposed to. So, I have to ask the Horror Across Borders community, do you believe a place can attach itself to you? Can a Yūrei follow you home? Tell me in the comments below, especially if you've had your own strange experiences. And make sure you subscribe to Horror Across Borders and turn on notifications for what comes next. Because I have to talk about this. I need someone to know what's happening to me. It's been 6 months since I escaped Aokigahara. I'm physically safe, thousands of miles away in my clean, sterile apartment. I never went back for my camera, but I didn't leave the forest behind. It came with me. It started small. A faint, earthy smell of moss and damp soil that clings to my apartment, no matter how much I clean. Sometimes, I'll walk into a room and the air will go still and silent. That same heavy, listening quiet I felt under the trees. It only lasts a second, but it's enough to turn my blood to ice. Then came the flickers of movement in my peripheral vision. A tall, pale shape disappearing around a corner or standing in a dark doorway. When I turn, of course, nothing is there. I keep seeing a shadow at the edge of my eye, a distorted human shape that dissolves the moment I try to look at it. The nightmares are the worst part. I'm back in the forest every night, running, the faceless thing always right behind me. I always wake up just as it puts that terrible thought in my head. You belong here. I've seen doctors. They use words like PTSD, trauma-induced hallucinations. I want to believe them. God, I want to. But none of them have an explanation for how, last week, I woke up and found a small black volcanic rock sitting perfectly in the center of my pillow. A rock I know, with chilling certainty, came from the floor of that forest. I ignored the warnings. I went off the path because I saw something I thought I needed to record. But in the end, it recorded me. It saw me and it hasn't stopped looking. Aokigahara doesn't let everyone go. Some people it keeps, and others it follows. A silent, shadowy passenger, just waiting for you to get lost again, even in the safety of your own home. The question that haunts me every single second is, what is it waiting for?